Tonight on the Worldview Report, the Biden regime is secretly negotiating a long-term package of military aid to Ukraine aimed at propping up the corrupt regime for another 10 years. The leader of Scotland, who famously rallied against too many white people being in Scotland's government, has resigned. The U.S. is set to get a new fleet of doomsday planes that some have said signal the nation could be preparing for World War III. Donald Trump has a 60 to 70% chance of being convicted in the so-called hush money trial. And this estimate is from one of his aides. And a lot of news from America's college campuses where pro-Hamas activists have taken over. And they have defaced statues of America's founding fathers. And on one campus, they even beat up a group of Native Americans. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brannon Howse. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brannon Howse.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. Leading off tonight, Zero Hedge reports that last week, soon after Joe Biden signed into law that $61 billion foreign aid package for the defense of Ukraine's borders, President Zelensky on Sunday indicated that he's working with Washington on a bilateral security agreement which would last 10 years. Zelensky said in his nightly video address, quote, "We are already working on a specific text. Our goal is to make this agreement the strongest of all. We are discussing the specific foundations of our security and cooperation. We are also working on fixing specific levels of support for this year and the next 10 years, end quote. He indicated it will likely include agreements on long-term support centering on military hardware and joint arms production, as well as continuing reconstruction aid. Zelensky added that the agreement should be, quote, truly exemplary and reflect the strength of American leadership, end quote. Well, what this appears to be about is making Ukraine a vassal state, subservient to the U.S. deep state, and a perpetual cash cow for its military-industrial complex. Zelensky, well, he seems to be gambling that he can keep his country together under such a degrading relationship. And he knows the only way to even attempt to do that will be through tyrannical means. The American people, they did not sign up for this. And according to the polls, they don't want it. 70% of Americans in one poll said they're against sending any more military aid to Ukraine, let alone for the next 10 years. But ultimately, as Zero Hedge noted, a key purpose in locking in such a long-term deal would be to keep it immune from potential interference by a future Trump administration. Scotland's leader, Humza Yousaf, resigned on Monday, quitting as head of the pro-independence Scottish National Party, or SNP. This was after scrapping a coalition agreement with Scotland's Greens. He then failed to secure enough support to survive votes of no confidence against him expected later this week. Yousaf, born to Pakistani immigrants in Glasgow, built an infamous reputation as a woke activist politician going into the 2023 elections. His rabid pro-immigration stance and consistent arguments in favor of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or also known as DEI, well, they should have been a red flag to any red-blooded Scotsman, right? But with an increasingly progressive voting population, Yousaf narrowly scored a victory. Here is Humza in 2020 giving a speech in which he blasted the unacceptable whiteness of the Scottish government. Watch this.
That 99% of the meetings I go to, I'm the only non-white person in the room. But why are we so surprised when the most senior positions in Scotland are filled almost exclusively by those who are white? Take my portfolio alone. The Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every assistant chief constable, white. The head of the Law Society, white. The head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every prison governor, white. And not just justice. The chief medical officer, white. The chief nursing officer, white. The chief veterinary officer, white. The chief social work advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white. That is not good enough.
As noted by Zero Hedge, quote, keep in mind that Scotland is 96% white. For most people, logic would dictate that having a majority white government makes perfect sense, given Scotland's demographics. This is something that Youssef and his progressive ilk have set out to change, end quote. CNN host Jim Acosta on Monday was astounded by a new poll showing a majority of Americans perceive former President Donald Trump's term as successful. The CNN poll found that 55% of Americans believe Trump's presidency was a success, while the same percentage of voters said in January of 2021 that it was a failure. Acosta said on his show, titled CNN Newsroom with Jim Acosta, that it was, quote, extraordinary, end quote, that some voters look back fondly at Trump's presidency, citing the number of deaths during the COVID-19 pandemic and the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. Acosta said, quote, the other thing that's in that poll is it shows that a lot of Americans view Donald Trump's presidency as a success, which is extraordinary, given the fact that 1 million people died from COVID, end quote. 2 weeks after being viciously stabbed in the face and neck by an Islamic terrorist while preaching at his church in Sydney, Australia, Bishop Mari Emanuel returned to the pulpit. This was on Sunday, and there he was to preach a fiery sermon. The video of this attacker carrying out the violent crime has been suppressed by all social media companies in cooperation with the Australian government, which has banned it. Only one, Twitter, now known as X, is fighting that ban. And here's how that bishop ended his sermon.
I am a true blue Aussie. I am proud to be an Australian. And wherever I go, wherever I travel across the globe, when I come back here, this is home. And I said it, I am very proud of these great Anzac warriors who gave their life up to the very human rights, to the very freedom of speech and freedom of religion. They died to keep and preserve the human identity and integrity. I salute my beloved Anzac warriors, and whoever walks in that path must be saluted. And this is why I stand for that freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Every human has the right to the freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Every human being, no matter who that is, everyone has the right. God bless you. I've kept you for too long, but this is my normal me again.
So, in case anyone was confused, Bishop Emanuel preaches love and forgiveness, but he is not on the side of censorship and suppression of truth. As you can see in that second video, he is 100% standing up for freedom of speech and does not condone government censorship of the attack by an Islamic jihadist who screamed Allah Akbar while stabbing 2 priests on the altar of a Christian church. We'll be right back after this break.
Sounds rolling, all 3 cameras, we're good.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, pleaded guilty today for lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Really brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us tonight and every night. And thank you for remembering that you help make this broadcast possible. We push the program out for free. Various networks pick it up, of course. Patriot.tv, it's housed on our network, worldviewtube.com, but we also let Band.video, Brighteon, others pick it up, as well as TV 30 in Milwaukee. We let all these outlets pick it up because we want to push this out as a public service and educational program, as well as ministry programming. You say ministry programming, why? Well, because we're trying to help people understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview with reason, logic, and context. And that's where our foundation comes in, because our foundation, WVW Foundation, is all about pushing out news and information, articles, conferences, documentaries, anything we can to help people understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. So if you appreciate what we're doing, remember, our foundation helps push it out so you can watch it for free. Otherwise, what would happen is it airs and then immediately it goes behind a paywall. But we want people to share this far and wide all over the world. So if you appreciate that fact, we appreciate your support at WVWFoundation.com, WVWFoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Don't forget, our foundation is also the sponsor of our Sunday night church service on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Central Time, at worldviewtube.com. Right now I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. Last Sunday, lesson 5 on the book of Revelation. And so this Sunday, obviously, would be lesson 6. So hope you can join us on Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Central at worldviewtube.com for our Sunday night church service of the WVW Foundation. Also from Slay News, cardiologists investigating the sudden heart attack of a healthy 29-year-old have concluded that the COVID mRNA vaccine that she was required to take in order to keep her job was the cause of her cardiac failure. International marketing executive Florencia is speaking out after finally discovering the cause of the heart problem. She leads an athletic lifestyle, but she suffered an unexpected heart attack on April 16th. She says doctors were baffled and initial testing showed a sign of a heart attack. She was then rushed for an angiogram, which showed, quote, no blockage or heart attack, end quote. Florencia, who says she has, quote, played sports her entire life, end quote, pressed the doctors to continue investigating the issue and the cause. She says an MRI scan proved on April 23rd that she did, in fact, suffer a heart attack. After doctors initially claimed that the heart attack was, quote, caused by a virus, end quote, she says cardiologists have now confirmed it was, quote, the result of the COVID vaccine. Doctors diagnosed her with COVID vaccine-induced myopic carditis. The Express reports that former President Donald Trump has a 60 to 70% chance of being convicted in the hush money trial and could even be placed under house arrest. That's what a former advisor of his very own has claimed. Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony charges in the case, which relates to alleged payments to an adult film star, Stormy Daniels, before the 2016 election. It is claimed that Trump paid the money to stop her from discussing an alleged affair. Trump denies any wrongdoing and denies having an affair with Daniels. Anthony Scaramucci, Trump's former White House communications officer and now a vocal critic of the former president, says that the odds are against Trump in the case. On the Rest is Politics podcast, he said, quote, I have a lot of friends who work in the Southern District, the federal courts in the U.S. It has a 99% conviction rate. The Southern District did not take Trump's case, but when I asked buddies of mine what the likelihood is of the prosecutors winning this case, they say 60 to 70%. So there is a 2/3 chance Trump will get convicted, end quote. Biometric Update reports that Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and Bill Gates met to discuss the use of digital identity as a tool for improving tax collection by the government. The meeting took place on the sidelines of a World Economic Forum event in Saudi Arabia. Gates has also been communicating with Coordinating Minister of the Economy and Minister of Finance, Wael Ungden, on further digitization, so reports the whistleblower. Gates suggested that the Nigerian government could adopt tax collection through digital identity by adopting what is known as MOSIP, the Modular Open Source Identity Platform. Gates, of course, is a prominent promoter of Massa, and the Gates Foundation is one of the primary financial backers. The Whistler quotes Gates as saying, quote, "With Mossop ID, there is potential application in all government payment programs. It helps with payment efficiency and bank accounts. And eventually, when everyone is using that, it makes tax collection easier. The benefit will take a few years. However, there will be more bank accounts, more financial inclusion, and effective government payment programs," end quote. Gates also said that Nigeria is well positioned with young talent to carry out its digital transformation. The president recounted how Lagos State used technology to increase its tax base from approximately 440,000 to 5.9 million while he was its governor. The Nigerian president also committed to consider Massa. Nigeria has long had one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in the world. And studies have suggested that governments can increase their rate of tax collection through digitalization. Pro-Hamas protesters have defaced a statue of George Washington on the campus of George Washington University in Washington, D.C. According to a report by the Daily Signal, the statue is draped in a Palestinian flag, while a black and white scarf is wrapped around the statue's neck. Stickers reading, quote, "End the genocide, free Palestine," and, quote, "The students united will never be divided," and, quote, "Anti-fascist action," end quote. They are dotted around Washington's bronze body. A pink sticker reading, quote, "Rise, love, resist," end quote, covers Washington's face. Quote, "Genocidal warmongering university," end quote, is written in paint across the granite base of the statue and a portion of the statue's plaque. Look at this.
This is the statue of George Washington on George Washington University's campus. And this statue happens to be in the middle of the pro-Palestinian encampment on the university.
Well, that's a disgrace. But, folks, it gets worse. The Independent Sentinel reports that pro-Hamas radicals at UCLA beat up Native Americans at a mostly peaceful rally on that campus. The Native Americans, well, they apparently would not go along with the narrative that Hamas has laid out. From day one, the Hamas Palestinian agitators have pretended they are just like the Native Americans. They lured Indians into their group. But, like all fascist groups, they can turn on a dime and reject all dissent. If natives challenge the Palestinian Native American equivalents, well, they will get quickly attacked and viciously attacked by the left. TikTokers, well, they apparently like to use the famous fake shrinking Palestinian map. It doesn't coincide with history, and they use this to make their comparison. In this clip, the pro-Hamas group is beating up the Indians who held up signs saying, quote, "Hamas supporters aren't welcome on native lands," end quote. They were then attacked on UCLA's, quote, "liberated land," end quote, so-called. Watch this. Well, now it's time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. Hamas agitators have invaded universities across America, disrupting education, transportation, and in some cases, endangering the lives of people. More than 33 people were arrested on Thursday of this week at Indiana University for staging pro-Hamas protests at Dunn Meadow. The agitators, they had tents and other, structures that they had set up in their encampment, which according to the university was a violation of the school's policies. According to the university's provost, Dunn Meadow is a place where, quote, expression on all subjects, end quote, is permitted. But people are not allowed to put up tents or other temporary living structures. That's what WISH-TV Channel 8 reported. Quote, the protest started Thursday morning in Dunn Meadow, a park which happens to be across the street from Chabad House of Bloomington, a resource for Jewish people on the campus, end quote. That's what, again, WISH-TV Channel 8 reported. Watch this.
I'm just telling you this. If those tents don't come down, the state police, not IUPD, is going to come through here and clear everybody out.
What is your order? Tell me your order.
And then once that happens, we're going to push you this way. If you resist us or stay, then you'll be arrested.
Who called state police?
So that's what you need to know. The tents need to come down, and then you guys can stay. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. You can stay till 11 p.m. Okay? I've already researched it. So just make a decision. So it's the tents, and stay here and protest.
Hey, so I'm a faculty member, and I'm telling you you're violating faculty policy.
Move back. Move back. Hey, back up.
Hey, step back.
Don't shoot me. Move back. Move back. Is that what you do? You want to go to jail? Move back. Do you want to go to jail? Move back. Move back. Move back. Keep going. Move back. Move. Where are we to move to? Huh? This is our campus. This is our campus. We go here. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you, Fulton? I know you hear me. Have you no morals? Is this what you do to people? Is this what you do? Get over here! Everybody move back! Move back! Move back! Back up!
Given the location of that protest across the street from a Jewish student center, I'd say that qualifies as harassment of a particular ethnic group, don't you? Imagine if that were happening, well, in front of a Black Student Union Center or perhaps maybe a Native American Student Center. I don't think the cops would have been that polite, do you? And the media, well, they would have certainly had no patience for it. But these Hamas-supporting Jew haters, well, they are presented in the mainstream media as persecuted heroes. This is a divisive gaslighting operation, no doubt about it, and it's being engineered, I think, by leftists and globalists who hate America and I think who are trying to drive us to a civil war. What do you think? All I know is this: we cannot let that happen. We do not want civil war. Well, that does it for this edition of the Worldview Report. As always, thank you for watching and for supporting this viewer-supported broadcast. One way I think you can support us and your health is by doing what I do. I take this every day, and it's empty because I just took one. This is not uncommon for me to take one at the news desk. What is it? It's called Bella Grace. It's an elixir. You'll find out more at melissahousebg.com. It contains collagen, great for our hair, our eyes, our skin, our joints, tendons. It also contains what's known as astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is a powerful antioxidant, taking on those free radicals. And then it includes something known as cat's claw, which is an anti-inflammatory coming from a bark on a vine in Peru. 3 powerful ingredients into one elixir. Again, Melissa and I take it every day. We've gotten great results, and it has about 80 clinical trials behind it. You can read those at melissahousebg.com. melissahousebg.com. Another way I think you can support us and your health is by swishing with this twice a day. Melissa and I take 2 capfuls twice a day. We swish with it for 3 to 4 minutes because this product, Numi, contains what is known as glutathione. Do your own homework. Just put into a search engine, what are the benefits of glutathione? That's a molecule. It's a powerful molecule that acts as a detoxer of our cells. What could have happened in the country since 2020 that might need us to have our cells detoxed. Maybe a virus, maybe someone shedding on us, maybe just what's in the environment, right? Pesticides, herbicides. So again, do your own homework on glutathione. This product, Numi, has it. An IV would cost you about $250, and that doesn't last very long. And it actually breaks down the molecule. Whereas this delivery system, studies show, gets into your system in its complete form and in within about 90 seconds. So you can find full details at Numi.com/House1. That's spelled Neumi, Numi, Neumi.com/House1. Be sure to spell House, Howse. Again, use that link if you want our organization to get credit, because again, I think this is a great way to support your health and us at the same time. Another way you can do that, I think, is by going ahead and getting your Wellness Company emergency medical kit with 8 different meds. Folks, I don't know what these guys are planning when it comes to the bird flu or any other pandemic, but I do think it's crucial to have certain meds on hand, amoxicillin, ivermectin, and others. You'll find out what the 8 meds are when you use the URL, twc.health/Brannon, twc.health/Brannon. Use that URL. You'll also save money, and you'll also be supporting this show. So again, please use that URL. We both win. You get a savings and we get credit. twc.health/Brannon, twc.health/BRANNON. No D in there, okay? All right, well, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for watching. May God save America. Take care.